Hi, this is Mark Walton for GameSpot, and I am joined by our resident graphics expert, Cameron Robinson.
So I've cut together this little video which we're going to talk over and try and pick out some of the points which we think is a good way to see the differences between the versions.
Yeah, of course.
And because there are some high points for some and some low points for others.
Yes, notably the PlayStation 3 version. But let's kick off with the Xbox 360. I know, I jumped the gun a bit. But let's check out the 360.
So this is level 2, by the way.
Level 2 in the mansion.
Truths. Yep.
This is when you discover lots of things about Dante.
So already, if we switch to Ultra here, we can see the difference. There's a difference in the general color palette, but also in the overall look.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that the noticeable thing about the PC version is the crispness of the graphics. I mean, when you see there, if we go back, one of the things that's a problem in the PS3 version is texture popping. This happens a lot, and you can see it here with the textures on the windows haven't loaded while the rest of the screen has, and that happens a lot. So particularly in cutscenes as well, which is quite jarring. Like they might be talking, and all of a sudden some objects are suddenly spring to life in the background, which isn't great.
We should see here's the PS.
So here's the PC
for
one.
comparison, and you can see the.
Yeah, no, the big difference here is the lighting.
The lighting, it's lovely.
The lighting's much better. This is only a DirectX 9 game, so you know it uses older tech. It's Unreal Engine as well, but it's not DirectX 11. But you know it works really well. You've got really nice lighting effects. Noticeably, the anti-aliasing is better, always is on PC, because graphics cards can handle it, unlike the older hardware and consoles. And it's smoother as well. You won't be able to see that on the video we've got here because it's been compressed for the internet. But when you actually play the game, it does 60 frames per second. It's locked to the monitor, oddly enough. So if you've got a 120Hz monitor, you can do 120 frames per second, which is great. It's really smooth, and that's one of the things people were upset about Devil May Cry. So the PC version is where it's at for that.
Yeah. So here's the 360 and the PS3. They both run at 30 frames, and so what you're looking at now is pretty much what it looked like on your screen. Again, here there's not much difference in the combat, but you reviewed all versions. Did you mentioned to me that you had a little bit of frame rate issues with the PS3?
So this is a common problem with the PS3 in that when you look at the footage for PS3. That's awesome when it's reversed. When you look at the footage for PS3 on here, it's going to be difficult to tell again because of the web compression. But there are noticeable drops in frame rate, particularly when there's a lot going on in a scene. So these early levels aren't so bad because there aren't so many monsters. As soon as you get into the later ones, when there's a lot more monsters,
those pesky monsters.
Yeah. Well, demons in this
case.
It gets trickier for the console to handle it, and that's because Unreal Engine traditionally hasn't worked as well on Sony's console as it has the Xbox 360. It's not the first game to have these issues.
And they're not like to the Skyrim level of problematic, are they?
No. You know, you can play through this game and you'll still enjoy it, but just the experience is not as good as on the 360, and certainly not the PC version.
Now, if we just play it from here, one thing I think you'll really notice with the difference between this and the PC is if you look at the effects, the weapon kind of flashes. Now watch it on the PC, and you can see the difference there.
They're much crisper. You know, you've got more. Again, the lighting effects are better. There's not a huge amount of physics in this game, as far as I'm aware, so it's just nicer and crisper, I think, is what's making it look good.
But as you said, the biggest difference, if you were to sit down and play these three side by side, the biggest difference will be the frame rate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look here, this is all in engine, obviously. There's not a huge amount of difference between the PC there and the Xbox.
No. So you've got PS3 360 again. There's not a huge amount of difference.
Here they are, console side by side. The PS3 has a kind of almost haze, I find, over it.
It's got like a sort of washed out haze over it, which, you know, again, you would not notice that if you were just playing it. It's only when you look at them side by side like this.
You get a bit of texture pop in there in the bottom corner of the screen.
Yeah, you can see the texture popping on the PS3.
But again, it's not that bad. Like if you have both consoles and you are really fussy about graphics, then I guess you might want to go for the 360. But there's not a huge amount of difference. You know, watching this video, you can see here as we're zooming along, there's really not much. Yeah, there's not a lot in it. I just think that the 360 version is just a smoother experience overall, which is why we've scored the PS3 version a little less, because it also has some audio bugs as well, which are kind of frustrating. We actually saw a bit of texture popping on the PC there. If I just oh, did we really? Yeah, watch when Dante lands. Yeah, there you go. There's a little bit there, cheeky PC. Again, see now when I reviewed, again this all depends on your hardware as well. Obviously with the PC, when I reviewed the PC version, I played it on quite a nice computer where I had a 660 Ti from NVIDIA fitted to it, whereas this is played on a slightly older
PC. But again, it ran absolutely fine. It's not a particularly demanding game.
Yeah, we see some of the particle effects here, and that's the kind of, again, the standout feature for the PC. You really see the difference when it comes to the effects.
Yeah, it's just much crisper. Again, just because of the virtue of the fact that the PC graphics cards can handle anti-aliasing better, it looks good.
So it's really none of this it will be a surprise to anyone.
No.
But it's just quite nice to kind of see it in action. So I think it's most pronounced, the kind of effects when using the scythe here, the lighting effects. I mean, that looks great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's the 360. The PS3, the particles are maybe slightly more pronounced. Maybe that, I'm not sure. If you see the kind of particles trailing the scythe, maybe.
Oh, that's because now it's charged up. See,
oh, I see. Sorry, so
that's a gameplay thing.
That's a good. Well, that's a good point to notice. And yeah, here's the PC again.
And it's just crisper. You know, it's much crisper. I know it's going to be tricky to see with the web compressed video, but it is crisper and it is nice. And it's just the frames. You really need to. If you were to sit playing the 360 version next to the PC version actually live in front of you, the difference is huge, right, in terms of the frames per second. So, you know, it's just very, very smooth.
Cool. So kind of final points. If you have all three systems at home and you're lucky enough, then PC is kind of unsurprisingly the way to go if the graphics are.
Honestly, PC is the way to go, even if you've got an older system. It will run on, you know, it's Unreal Engine, DirectX 9. You know, you don't need a hefty PC to run that. PS3 version probably isn't the way to go if you can avoid it. If you've got multiple consoles, 360. But if you are lumbered with Sony's console as your only machine.
It's essentially lumbered. It's not that bad. I mean,
lumbered.
Obviously there's some great advantages to having a PS3 in general, but when it comes to this game, if you only have a PS3, don't worry, you're still going to get a good experience. There may be some issues with frame rate now and again and texture popping, but none of it's game breaking.
None of it's huge.
And none of it will stop you enjoying what is definitely a great game.
It is a great game.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Cameron Robinson.
No problem. You too, Mark. And we'll catch you guys next time for another graphics comparison.